I never thought I'd be telling this story, but here we are. My name is Sarah, and what happened in my house 3 weeks ago still gives me chills. I'm a marketing executive married to David for 8 years, and we have what I thought was a pretty normal life in suburban Denver. His mother, Margaret, lives about 20 minutes away and visits occasionally. He's always been, let's say, particular about things. But nothing could have prepared me for what I walked into that Tuesday evening. I had been at a client dinner that ran late. You know how these corporate things go. Wine, endless presentations, small talk that feels like it lasts forever. I texted David around 9 p.m. that I'd be home by 10:30. He responded with a simple, "Okay, love you." Normal. Everything was completely normal. I drove home through our quiet neighborhood thinking about the presentation I had to give the next morning, mentally rehearsing my talking points. The house looked peaceful from the outside. Porch light on, David's car in the driveway, everything exactly as it should be. But when I opened the front door, something felt off. The living room was too quiet and there was this strange energy in the air. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and sense something's not right? That's exactly what hit me. I called out, "David, I'm home," but got no response. His laptop was open on the coffee table, still glowing, which was unusual because he always closes it before bed. I figured he might have fallen asleep watching TV upstairs. I climbed the stairs, each step creaking in that familiar way, and headed toward our bedroom. The door was slightly ajar, which was also odd because we usually keep it closed. As I pushed it open, expecting to find my husband sleeping peacefully, my world turned upside down. There in our bed under our sheets was Margaret, my mother-in-law. She was awake, sitting up, and when she saw me, her expression was something I'd never seen before. Not embarrassment, not surprise, but something else entirely. Something that made my blood run cold. If you enjoyed the story, leave your comment, give it a like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Margaret. I whispered, my voice barely audible. My mind was racing, trying to process what I was seeing. Where was David? Why was his mother in our bed? She looked at me with these intense eyes, and for a moment neither of us spoke. The silence was deafening. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. "Sarah," she said calmly, way too calmly for someone caught in such a bizarre situation. "We need to talk." Her voice had this strange quality to it, urgent but controlled. She patted the bed beside her, as if inviting me to sit down in my own bedroom. I stood there frozen, my purse still hanging from my shoulder, car keys clutched in my hand like some kind of weapon. "Where's David?" I managed to ask, my voice shaking. That's when I noticed his side of the bed was undisturbed, like he hadn't been there at all. Margaret's eyes darted toward the window, then back to me. "He's safe," she said, which was possibly the worst answer she could have given. Safe? What did that even mean? Safe from what? I felt my legs give out slightly and I grabbed the doorframe for support. "Margaret, you need to explain what's happening right now or I'm calling the police." I pulled out my phone, but she held up her hand. "Please, Sarah. Sit down. What I'm about to tell you will change everything you think you know about your husband, about me, about this whole situation." Against every instinct screaming at me to run, I found myself walking toward the bed. There was something in her tone, something desperate and real, that made me pause. I sat on the very edge, as far from her as possible, my body tense and ready to bolt. "You have 5 minutes, I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. Margaret took a deep breath, and when she started talking, her words hit me like a freight train. "David isn't who you think he is, Sarah. And neither am I." She reached under the pillow and pulled out a manila envelope, thick with documents and photographs. 3 months ago I discovered something that changed everything. Your husband has been living a double life, and tonight, everything was supposed to come to an end. The envelope felt heavy in my hands, heavier than paper and photos should feel. Margaret watched me intently as I opened it, her eyes never leaving my face. The first thing I saw was a photograph of David, but he looked different. Younger, with shorter hair, standing next to a woman I'd never seen before. They were both wearing what looked like police uniforms. "That was taken 12 years ago," Margaret said quietly. "Before he became David Morrison, your husband. His real name is Detective Marcus Webb, and that woman next to him is his former partner, Detective Lisa Chen." My hands started trembling as I flipped through more photos. David, or Marcus, in various locations, always with official-looking people, always looking serious and professional. "This is impossible," I whispered, but even as I said it, pieces started clicking into place. David's odd hours, the phone calls he'd take in private, the way he sometimes seemed to know things about crime stories on the news before they were fully reported. He's been undercover for over a decade, Sarah. Deep cover. So deep that even I didn't know until recently. Margaret shifted closer to me on the bed and I noticed she was fully dressed under the covers, jeans, sweater, boots. She hadn't been sleeping, she'd been waiting. The people he's been investigating, they're dangerous. 3 months ago his cover was blown. They've been hunting him ever since and by extension hunting you. I felt sick. 8 years of marriage, 8 years of what I thought was love and honesty, and it was all built on a lie? Why are you telling me this? And why are you in my bed? The questions tumbled out of me, each one more desperate than the last. Because tonight they found him. Margaret's voice cracked for the first time. David, Marcus, he contacted me this afternoon. He said they were closing in, that he had maybe hours before they tracked him down. He asked me to come here to wait for you to explain everything if something happened to him. She pulled out her phone and showed me a text message. If I don't contact you by midnight, tell Sarah everything. The envelope has all the proof. Keep her safe. I love you both. I looked at the time on her phone. 11:47 p.m. 13 minutes until midnight, and David hadn't contacted her. We have to go, Margaret said, already moving to get out of the bed. Right now. They might already know you're here. But I couldn't move. My entire world had just collapsed and she wanted me to run? Sarah. Her voice was sharp now, urgent. Listen to me. David left specific instructions. If his cover was blown completely, if they found him, we were supposed to meet him at a safe house. But we have a very small window. I stared at the photographs scattered across our bed that suddenly felt like it belonged to strangers. How do I know you're telling the truth? How do I know this isn't some elaborate scam? Margaret grabbed my shoulders, her grip firm but not painful. Because in about 10 minutes, if David's timeline is correct, 3 men are going to come through that front door looking for both of you. And they won't be here to talk. As if on cue, we heard a car door slam outside. Margaret's face went white. That's not supposed to be them yet, she whispered, moving quickly to the window. She peered through the blinds, then spun back to me. Sarah, we need to leave right now. Back door through the garden to my car parked on Maple Street. My legs finally started working, adrenaline flooding my system. I grabbed the envelope and stuffed it into my purse. Margaret was already moving toward the bedroom door, but she stopped and turned back to me. There's something else you need to know before we go. Her voice was different now, softer but somehow more frightening. What? I whispered, following her toward the stairs. We could hear footsteps on the front porch now, slow and deliberate. Margaret looked at me with eyes that held a mixture of sadness and something else. Something that looked almost like pride. I'm not just David's mother, Sarah. I never was. She paused at the top of the stairs, listening to the sounds below. Someone was testing the front door handle. My real name is Agent Patricia Hawkins, FBI. I've been David's handler for the past 15 years. And you, my dear daughter-in-law, are about to become the most important witness in the biggest organized crime case this country has seen in decades. The front door creaked open downstairs. We made it to Margaret's, Patricia's car just as the lights in our house started going on and off. She drove in complete silence for the first 10 minutes, taking random turns through neighborhoods I didn't recognize. My mind was reeling, trying to process everything that had happened in the span of an hour. The safe house is about 30 minutes away, she finally said, glancing in the rearview mirror. David should be there waiting for us. Should be. Those 2 words carried so much uncertainty. Patricia, I said, testing out her real name. Why did David marry me? Was I just part of his cover? She was quiet for so long I thought she wasn't going to answer. Then she pulled into a 24-hour diner parking lot and turned off the engine. Sarah, what I'm about to tell you is going to be the hardest part of all this. She turned to face me fully. David wasn't supposed to fall in love with you. It wasn't part of the plan. When he first approached you 8 years ago, yes, it was for the cover. You worked at the marketing firm that handled accounts for several businesses we suspected were money laundering operations. My heart sank. So it had all been fake. But, she continued, within 6 months everything changed. David came to me, said he wanted out of the operation because he'd fallen in love for real. He said he couldn't use you anymore, that it wasn't fair to you. She smiled sadly. I'd never seen him like that in 15 years of working together. So what happened? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. We made a deal. He could marry you, have a real relationship, but he had to stay in deep cover until we could build the case. It took 8 years, Sarah, but we finally have enough evidence to bring down the entire organization. The Torino family, their associates, their money laundering operations, everything. A car pulled up beside us and I tensed, but Patricia relaxed. That's him, she said, and I saw David, Marcus, whoever he was, getting out of a black sedan. He looked exhausted, older somehow than when I'd seen him that morning. When he opened my car door, I didn't know whether to hug him or hit him. Sarah, he said, and his voice was exactly the same as it had always been. I know you have every right to hate me right now. I looked into his eyes, the same eyes I'd looked into every morning for 8 years, and realized something that surprised me. I don't hate you, I said quietly. I'm terrified, I'm confused, I feel betrayed, but I don't hate you. He knelt down beside the car. Everything I told you about loving you was true. Everything about our life together, our plans, our dreams, that was all real. The only lie was my name and my job. Patricia cleared her throat. We need to get moving. The safe house, then tomorrow we start the process of putting you both into witness protection. As we drove toward whatever came next, David reached over and took my hand. There's one more thing, he said softly. The reason they found me tonight, the reason my cover got blown? He squeezed my hand. I made a mistake 3 months ago. I saw them following you home from work and I broke protocol to make sure you were safe. That's how they connected us. I stared at him in the darkness of the car, understanding finally dawning. You blew your own cover to protect me? He nodded. 15 years of work, Sarah. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Sometimes the most unexpected thing isn't what people do to hurt you, it's what they're willing to sacrifice to keep you safe.